No. You done got me talking politics. I didn't wanna.
Talked about like a year or two.
I think this must have, would it have been as long as 2 years?
It could have been. It might have been one of our first conversations.
Yeah.
So it's like, before you get to know me and change your mind, I want to invite you onto my podcast.
Well, after I start letting out my pearls of wisdom, you might regret it. So.
You know how we roll. Well, maybe you know how we roll. I don't presume that you have ever listened to an episode of the show.
Oh yeah, I've listened. Yeah, I was actually listening to a couple today just to see if swearing was allowed, and
swearing, drug use, sacrilege. It's all welcome.
I'm getting a wee notification saying poor connection on my end, so hopefully that sorts itself out and doesn't cause us any problems.
The National Guard's been setting up here in Columbus, so I imagine there's a lot more Wi-Fi usage and whatnot going on.
Yeah. How is it where you are? Is it lockdown, or are you still kind of going about your daily business? It's
mostly on lockdown. All the barbershops, hair salons, bars, most of the restaurants are only allowed to do to go or carry out or whatever you call it. And yeah, all the schools are closed. It's around spring break time here for the school year, but it's like you're not coming back afterwards.
Yeah, I think we are probably about the same. I think today the government gave the official closing the restaurants and bars. I think all the kind of small shops and stuff, they're all shut. It's just our supermarkets and our pharmacies and our hospitals, I think, that are going at the moment.
Yeah, that's what we've got. I think this week 110,000 people filed for unemployment benefits in Ohio, just Ohio.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I was reading not that long ago. Is this true that your guy Bloomberg, when he was doing his advertising campaign, he spent over $500 million just in advertising, and there's like 310 million legally registered Americans, like something along those lines. He could have just gave everybody $1 million and still had money left.
Basically, I didn't check his math, but he did definitely spend over $500 million. And he had said that even if he didn't win, which he definitely didn't because he dropped out when everybody else dropped out and started kissing Joe Biden's ass, he said that he was going to pay to keep campaign staff for whoever the candidate was. But he's said, no, I'm not going to do that now, but I'm going to put $18 million into the Democratic Party. Just give them $18 million, which is probably easier.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's just, when you start seeing the wealth difference of people around the world, isn't it? It beggars belief to think the amount some people have and how little others have. It's society, man.
Yeah, it's weird. It seems extremely under the microscope here because there are the most millionaires and billionaires in a presidential cabinet than we've ever had in history.
Really?
It's kind of hard to keep track. It's also had the highest turnover in of cabinet positions and senior political officials, I think. Blah, 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 blah. I did look up a little bit about what was going on in Scotland. Because I have to admit, I have been kind of thinking locally right now. But as of this afternoon, 7,550 tests had been done in Scotland. 7,228 were confirmed negative.
Yeah.
322 were positive, and 6 deaths.
Yeah, I think we're actually we're doing not too bad in terms of deaths, if that's a good way to put it. Considering like some of the places in Europe, especially Italy just now, it's unprecedented times. But then if you take the UK as a whole, which we probably should do, I think it's closer to, I think it's about 500, maybe 600. I think heading up towards the 1,000. I think.
Oh, for cases.
For cases, I think for the whole UK, I think we might be in the tens of thousands. I think. I might be making that up.
You know, I didn't look up that specific one, but I did look up the number in America as of earlier this afternoon. There have been 15,650 documented COVID-19 infections.
It's wild. It's so fast. It's come around so fast, and even though it's the first case, I believe, was November last year in China, it's still crept up on everyone so fast that this must be what it was like. Well, not quite, but like the plague, back in those days. You've just been feared to go near anyone, and like it's this level of kind of panic I've not seen in my entire lifetime. I don't know if anyone else has experienced the same style of panic, and I imagine it would have been terrible during the war. I'd imagine there'd been nothing there to ration food. That's a complete different scenario. But supermarkets just now, for the last maybe week and a half, have been empty. Every shelf empty. It started off, they were emptying the tin goods, the dry pasta, the long life milk, the flour to make your own bread. All these things were disappearing. The toilet roll, that's went really fast, and then now they've cleared all the shelves of fruit and vegetables. And I think today, when they said they were closing the pubs, they cleared the alcohol shelves. They've just ransacked, the whole supermarkets. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. And I tell you what, if over on the show that I do, the podcast I do, Scotland Lane vs Evil, I've been preaching about prepping for so long. Everybody should have at least 2 to 3 months of food in their house that they can just lock themselves in and survive should anything happen. I've been telling people that for ages. You want to be stocked up on your tins of chickpeas, you want to be stocked up on your fruit and syrup, you want to be dry pasta, you want to have enough water to last you 2 to 3 months. I never thought of the toilet roll, to be fair, but yeah, I mean, as long as you've always got running water, you can always, clean yourself, so you're fine there. But do you want to know, if all the prepping that I've been telling people, you want to know what? I wasn't prepared. I was not prepared. I was not prepared at all. This snuck up on me so fast. I told a story the last time when I prepped, and I got a cupboard full of provisions, and I put them in. I had the pasta and the tin tomatoes. They were all in the cupboard, and I was like, right, that's us. Lauren, that's my wife. So I said to her, right, that's us. We've got some food there. Should anything happen? And she thought, nothing's going to happen, and started cooking the food and eating it. So I had nothing left. So my beginning prepping situation depleted, and I didn't bother stocking it back up. And now we are in the midst of panic, and there's nothing.
We're in pre-apocalypse. We're just before. Thank you for introducing yourself. I did a poor job of recognizing that we had begun the episode. Although I am prepared, I record the entire conversation.
Good.
But it's for those specific reasons, talking about preparation. We were supposed to have left for a trip down to Florida this week that we ended up not doing.
Is that your decision, or is that kind of government advised?
It was largely our decision. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control, did say, if you don't have to go somewhere, please don't. It was at that stage, and then I was just sort of thinking,
putting it back on you.
Yeah, I was like, okay, if it does get worse, would I rather be on vacation or at my house? And do we want to be flying our kid around?
Yeah.
And stuff. So we were somewhat understocked, but in some ways, yeah, I mean, we've got some broth, we've got a lot of beans, rice, other provisions. Over this summer, we installed a backup battery that charges from our solar panels.
Right.
So that battery is about enough to run a regular, don't turn on everything all at once and don't turn on all the hair dryers and shit, but it can run the house for like 24 hours without sunlight, just on the backup battery. So
that's pretty prepared.
Yeah, the last couple of years, it's just been kind of getting ready for some sort of terrible thing to happen.
Yeah, and you know what? And nobody thought it would actually happen, and here we are. I've been waiting for the apocalypse for ages, thinking it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be so great, pillaging all the empty houses and stockpiling all my stuff and being the king of my own castle. And then now that it feels like it's almost here, I'm like, I'm not ready for. I'm not ready for the world to end. I quite like it. I quite enjoy the cinema and the bars and going about my daily business.
So hopefully this is just a heart palpitation.
A blip. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. We'll get the defibrillator out. Shock to the system. Maybe there'll be a nice rerouting of priorities.
You would think so. You would like to think so. I think it just shows how our society is just paper thin, a house of cards ready to fall at the slightest hurdle.
Yeah. I remember the Road War. I don't remember how the movie starts with that really nice not overdub. I actually do not remember, and maybe I've blocked it out, but I don't think I've ever heard that dubbed version of this that they put out in America because they thought we couldn't understand Australian.
Now, did they do that with the sequel? I know they'd done it because I watched the intro before, and it was I don't know if it was the director or if it was just a historian, and said how obviously the Mad Max 2 was not billed as a sequel in the US because you didn't get it first time round. You didn't get Mad Max when it was released, and they figured, people in the States wouldn't go and see a sequel if they hadn't seen the first movie. And I think the first one was then re-released with a dub. Is that right? Or did they dub The Road Warrior? Is that right?
I think they did both at first.
Because I don't think it doesn't sound overly Australian to me. But maybe
it doesn't to me either, and I don't think it really ever did. But I'm trying to think of. This came out in 1981.
Yeah.
So it was before the big Crocodile Dundee craze that really acclimated a lot of hodgepodge, middle-of-the-road Americans to... We're not an extremely cultured country if you spread it all out. I get that. Maybe I had a different sort of lookout, Okay. Tangents aside for a second. You picked Mad Max 2, which was released as The Road Warrior the first time around in the States because it maybe played at Mad Max might have played at a drive-in or some grindhouse theater somewhere, but yeah, it was, and the Naked Gun 2.5 thing hadn't started yet, so people weren't used to just throwing in weird numbers in their movies. 1984 hadn't even come out yet. Why this one?
This one is it's a very simple reason. It's the best one. There's no denying it. It's the first one is a movie that I don't really remember. I think I've watched it once or twice, and the whole idea around my memories of The Road Warrior is this post-apocalyptic world. The gangs, the desert wasteland. And when you watch the first movie, certainly if you watch it retrospectively, it's not as it's a different world. It's still part of society as far as I can remember. But the second, The Road Warrior is just this like, to me, it's fascinating world of lawlessness and good versus evil and almost like in morality almost, because as you go, obviously if you go through the movie, you've got Max there helping, but does he ever want to help because it's good and the right thing to do, or is he always doing it for for a reward almost, and it just the whole, I don't know, I just love the whole post-apocalyptic world that it creates, that other movies also create in their own right, but just that something about the whole no society, and it sounds very bleak. It sounds like a person to say fucking hate society, I wish Rumble. It's very, very bleak, but I love, something about watching people trying to survive when all the stepping stones and all the technology and all the advantages of a modern society, when that's all stripped away and it's just back to bare survival. I'm always fascinated to see how a story would play out in that world.
Gotta get that gasoline.
Yeah.
As the gyrocopter whose name I always forget.
But see, this is the thing, right? That I wonder this, right? See, it fuels desired, right? And they fight over it all the time, and it's so scarce.
A few moments later.
Right. I've had to change devices. I don't know what happened. My iPad just bugged out there, and then it wouldn't connect to the internet again. So I'm now on it on my phone, which I think means I can't look at my Mad Max notes, which is makes for fun discussions for the rest of the episode.
Chaos and disorder. That's the theme. That's what we're trying to talk about today.
That's it. It's all fitting in. It's all on purpose,
Yeah, it's all part of the plan. Let's see. I'm not sure what all of the conspiracy theories that are going around in Scotland are, but the main ones that I hear going around here. There's not that many anymore because it's pretty cut and dry. There's people that are like, just listen to the scientists, and then there's the people that are saying, oh well, Fox News says that it's a Democratic hoax to help defeat Trump in the election, or some racist xenophobic shit about it's some other country's fault, and if they build that wall, it'll all be okay.
Well, I had it was a man-made disease, a man-made virus for biological warfare, from this person suggested the Russians. So I said, what would you gain from that? Yeah, okay, society's kind of crumbled a bit, but really, because we invented the whole society and money's fake, we'll just fix it. Governments will fix it. It's not, this is just slowing things. And if it's slowing yourselves down as well. However, come to think of it, I don't know what Russia's current status is in terms of confirmed cases and deaths. They've been pretty quiet.
It's relatively quiet. They are having that big. Did you hear about the shakeup going on in their government?
No, do you know, I don't hear anything about Russia unless I actively go look for it now. It's not something that comes up on our news at all, to be honest.
I psychotically read the news. It's like it's one of my most masochistic features. So Vladimir Putin his entire cabinet resigned, and then in 5 hours, in one day, they drafted, voted on, and adopted legislation that I believe lets him stay president until 2036.
You couldn't make it up, could you?
No, it's so weird and scary and interesting. I'm reading more about this than I ever had in any high school civics class.
The question now: do the people of Russia like him as president?
The only Russian people I know hate him.
Okay.
There's not a big, but there's a decent sized community here in Columbus, and I can think of two people immediately who right around my age or so, and their parents hate him. I won't name them because Russia is good at killing people, but they're more precise. They'll put poison on the light switch inside your door, and then you touch it, and then you die, and everybody else
Yeah,
that you touch
they
dies.
poisoned nearly a whole town in England not long ago, trying to kill one guy. And
Yeah.
that poison got everywhere. Well, I say air quotes, swish, swish, swish. That was theoretically or supposedly the Russians. Who knows?
Yes, this entire show is a work of satire. So,
Yeah.
as has been said out loud now,
Yeah, everything that comes out my mouth is deliberately provocative, intended to offend, and never to be taken seriously.
yeah, we don't want to be like all your journalists, Russia, and fall out of windows all the time.
Yeah, there's accidental falls.
So many shoddy windows. So that's going on there. The Israeli government is realigning. Benjamin Netanyahu, who is under indictment for, I can't remember how many things, is sort of reshaping the government on his way out, if he's leaving. This last week, the USA and Iran had some more warlike things that nobody's talking about because we've got a virus and the world is shutting down.
Yeah, we need our toilet paper. We can't be paying attention to Iran, you know?
Yeah, people are fighting each other for toilet paper. I did pop out the other day. Luckily, since we were going to be on vacation, the missus and the little one had the next month's of medication stocked up.
Mm-hmm.
So didn't have to deal with that, but
Yeah.
still sort of trying to get back into, no, I will actually be at my house instead of on vacation. And it was just so weird. People were looking at each other like in The Thing. Maybe it was just my imagination because I hadn't left the house in a few days, but there's a lot of distrust and a lot of guns here.
Yeah, well, that's the thing as well. I've seen pictures of not only people queuing up outside supermarkets and fighting over toilet roll, because we had that here, but I've seen pictures of people queuing up, and I'm talking maybe, a mile long. That's ridiculous. A good, 20, 30 meter long queue waiting to get into a gun shop.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say, surely if you were the kind of person who would have a gun and was prepared to use a gun to protect your family and yourself and your house, you would already have it. You wouldn't wait until people start panicking before you buy a gun, because those people who are panic buying guns are the people who are going to panic use them, I would suggest.
Yeah, I would think so. Well, and they're also the kind that are like, well, I have to have all the guns, so you can't have any.
Well, that's the thing, though, because if I've got all the guns, then you can't shoot me with a gun if I've got all the guns.
Yeah, because I forget what the total number is, because it's been a while since I've looked at that with gun ownership in America. But I mean, I'm pretty sure there's something like 2.5 guns for every person, but only 40% or 30% of the people have them, which means a lot of people have a lot of guns, and some don't have any.
Do you think? It's. I mean, I guess there's never. Well, is there a right time to have them? Is there laws in America that is there a circumstance where if I shot and killed someone, but it was in some form of self-defense or protecting my property or my family, would I get away with it? Or are you always pretty much fucked if you shoot your gun and kill someone?
Oh, no. In a lot of places, you can totally do that, especially if it's at your house or on your property.
Yeah. See, that's one thing that's completely different from here. I believe I heard a story, and I'm sure it was a farmer's house, and someone tried to break in. They climbed in through the roof. They fell through the loft through the roof into the kitchen and landed on, maybe this farmer's knife or something that was in the kitchen. Landed on it and impaled themselves. I don't think they died, but they sued the farmer for the injury they sustained falling through the guy's roof trying to break into the house, and they won.
Oh, I believe I heard about that too.
Yeah, it's honestly bizarre. Sometimes having a kind of favouring the victim is it makes so much more sense than a kind of weigh out everything scenario.
America is very litigious, but depending on where you go, I was trying to get a better idea of where I live in comparison to other places, and I found out I put in what country is my state the size of, or whatever, and it gave me Scotland. So Ohio is roughly the size of Scotland. Here in Columbus, where I live, we're just shy of 1 million people.
I think that sounds about the same population as Glasgow, I think.
Okay, 800, 900,000.
I think so.
Something
What's
like
the total population of Ohio? Because
quick.
I believe at last time I checked, I think the population of Scotland is around 5 million.
The Ohio population is 11.6 million.
Well, so you've got a lot more people, but I think we've got a lot of dead space or empty space, in our highlands and stuff. We've got a lot of space with nobody in it.
Uninhabitable land.
4 big cities and then just barren wasteland that's full of people from Outlander just kicking about still in kilts.
It's all haggis and bagpipes.
It is. It really, really is.
I've got... My dad's really big into our heritage, and he found a cousin that lived, I can't remember where, but it's he runs like a bed and breakfast at the base of the Ben Nevis.
All right. Uh-huh.
So he's been over a couple times to visit. I was randomly selected for further verification of my ID, of my identification when I applied for a passport. So I missed going on my honeymoon. We were gonna go do Scotland and somewhere else. I've never been to anywhere besides America and Canada, but my missus has gone. But I had to fucking American government.
So what does that mean? If you didn't get a passport then? Is it or have you got one now or?
I've got one now, but it was delayed because they
Right.
sent back my application with a request for all this other paperwork, 2 or 3 different kinds of ID, identification cards, employment history, residency history, and a bunch of weird shit. The lady at the passport office was like, I can't really tell you this, but it's because you have a mohawk. I'm sure of it.
Do you think it's like kind of full on like judging books?
I get, I would think they just wouldn't want to let me back in the country if they don't like me. Oh, damn. I tangented us totally away from the point. What were we talking about? Guns. We were talking about guns.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, because it's a very hot topic. It's very controversial. It's always on the first thing on people's minds when you kind of discuss the state of the states. I guess me for one, I don't know enough about it. Some of the way I perceive people to behave on social media in regards to the guns appears bizarre to me, over the top nonsense. However, if I lived in the States, I would 100% own a gun because I do think they're cool as fuck. I'm not gonna lie.
I did want to tell you, because you did ask about being, if you could get, speaking of, if you moved to America and you got your cool fucking guns, where would you want to live? Well, a couple years ago in Texas, and I believe there's a 911 call that you can hear. A guy called because he saw somebody breaking into his neighbor's house, and he went and he killed them. And I'm pretty sure he was not brought up on charges.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Texas is a law in itself, though, isn't it?
Yeah, Texas. I think they're even called the Republic of Texas if you look into it. It is an interesting place. I've only been there twice, and only one time I can remember. The other time was when I was 4 or so. My parents drove out to California and back. We did a vacation road trip thing.
Sounds amazing.
It was, the parts I remember are pretty cool. My dad dangled me over the Grand Canyon and shit because it was the 80s and you could do that. But I don't remember being in Texas then. And then I was there one time. One of the bands I was in went on a lot of tours. And one time we did the whole, well, not every state, but a big circle out to California and back. And it was sort of a nightmare tour, but it was a blast. But all but one of our shows in Texas got canceled, and it was right in the middle. So we had to drive all the way into the middle of Texas and then back out to New Mexico.
I only heard once. No, I do like Texas myself. Like, it was one of the states for a long time that I would have wanted to live in. I base all my American sports teams out of Texas. I think, to be honest with you, I think it was when I picked my teams, I was fully into listening to Bowling for Soup, and that's where they're from. I think that's solely my reasoning. But I'm sure this was Texas, and it was one of Lauren's friends years ago. They done Camp America. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a kind of British schools get the chance to, when you're in 5th or 6th year. I don't even know what that is about. 16, 17, so almost at the end of high school. I think that's the same age for you guys.
That'd be like a junior or senior in high school.
Right.
Here.
So you get the chance to come over and pretty much work at a summer camp, I think is the idea, for a couple of weeks, maybe a full summer. I looked into it with my friend, and looking back now, it's probably the biggest mistake to not do that, because that sounds amazing. Even if you go to a full-on Friday the 13th summer camp, it still would be an incredible experience. I didn't do it, but Lauren's friends done it, and she told me a story, and they were driving through, the bus driver got lost. They were driving through somewhere, I'm sure it was Texas, and they were like, no, it's fine, we'll just go and ask directions. We'll go up to the shop and ask directions. And they walked up to the shop and says, where is such and such a place? And now I'm sure the response was different to how I remember it, from how Lauren's told me. But it's still just as crazy. I remember it like the Family Guy episode where they speak to Kermit the Frog and he brings out the gun and goes, "But back the way you came." That's how I remember. That's how, in my head, that's what happened. But I think it was just as scary and just as kind of blunt. Like, nah, I'm not telling you where to go. Get out of my town, kind of thing. I was like, wow, that's wild. Now, I don't know if that's Texas. It could be any place in the world, I suppose. But it was certainly in America, and it was certainly a small town, and it's quite scary. I think that people can be that mental. And then saying that's not before I alienate all your listeners that think that I'm being very negative against American towns. If anybody came in from outside, came to a small town in Scotland in the Central Belt, like the East End, I wouldn't even go in Easterhouse. And I can imagine, somebody wandering in clearly from out of town, their kind of regulars, people there would be like. It would be like I think it would happen anywhere in the world. If you were somewhere you weren't supposed to be, where people don't get a lot of visitors, I think it would happen.
There can be some weird instances. I'm not usually followed around stores, but I was in some small town on tour in Georgia, and I had 2 or 3 people following me. We were on tour with a band. Sort of to make this topical, I was going to see a friend of mine from the band we were on tour with, but her tours got canceled. So they were just kind of like following me around, and then I went up and I paid, and they're like, "Are you going to pay for the rest?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" They said, "The rest of the stuff you stole."
They accused you?
Yeah.
Straight out? Really?
Are you fucking serious? And yeah, they were being really fucking shitty.
What were they hoping just to have just say it to you and hope they would, if they were right, they would catch you out and you would be like, "Oh shit, here it is," or
yeah, or if they thought I was the decoy and they were gonna bust somebody else I was with, because it was me and my bass player and the 3 girls from the band we were on tour with. They got really pissed, and they were. I don't want to totally stereotype this, but they always had money when they were on tour, and I was always broke as shit. So it was just amazing. The type of stuff that they would buy on tour, and they had like baskets of shit, and they just dumped it on the ground, and we all left. So maybe they'll rethink that, because they probably lost $100 or $2. But yeah, it's weird. I can't remember where, but most of my traveling around America stories are band related. We got to this weird seeming, well, everything's weird when you haven't been there before, but this twisty road sort of in the woods, and sort of a little bit in the distance you'd see a light or two on, like there was very scattered out houses or something. And then there's just this log in the middle of the road, but there's no trees nearby that area.
A trap.
Yeah, it was like, oh shit, we're gonna get wrong turned up in here. And it really was like turn on the brights. We just ran out, shove it off the side of the road, and jump back in scared. And it might have just been a thing to fuck with people, or it could have been, some redneck driving around not securing the load in his back of his truck.
Yeah.
It was fucking freaky when you're in weird places.
Yeah,
And
aye.
you don't know what to do, and you're in the wasteland, and Lord Humongous, and I forget the name of his Mohawk guy. Oh, have you thought about? We'll probably talk about Mad Max 2, but I would imagine everybody has seen Mad Max 2, and we'll say some more stuff near the end. But in this preparation for the post-apocalypse,
yes,
you know how there's the Mohawk guy and the assless chaps, or there's a Lord Humongous, and there's other movies to reference. Have you figured out what your persona is going to be in the wasteland?
Well, that's what I've been thinking about recently because of the panic and the way that the coronavirus is changing the landscape. I'm trying to figure out where the line is before I can put on the full-on Clint Eastwood outfit from A Fistful of Dollars and strut about with a cowboy hat and the poncho.
Brown poncho.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've got all the stuff. I just need to put it all on, I've got it all here. It's in the cupboard. But the thing is, I live in Pollock in the southwest of Glasgow, and that place is one of those kind of small towns that I was discussing before. I don't think there's ever a time where I can go out dressed as a cowboy and not get my heat kicked in. So I need to decide when I'm ready to properly, when the shit has really hit the fan,
I mean, it's going to look like that. It's going to look like, I believe you've seen Assassination Nation, where everybody's just wearing masks.
Yeah.
There's all these improvised masks. There's all those YouTube videos about how to use underwear. I haven't watched them, but I feel like that's a thing I've seen. There's, things like that. There's sort of like with Halloween, I'm a little stuck with something's got to go with a mohawk. If I can't incorporate it, I have to hide it.
Well, if the shit does hit the fan just now, I think you've got assless chaps from Mad Max 2. It's right there for you.
Perfect. I've probably got a fringe vest from my dad's 1960s wardrobe. Maybe it's got an American. I'm pretty sure I do have a fringe vest that's the American flag. And I'm growing an apocalypse beard. I always shave. I hate having stubble. I shave every day. And I can't really grow. Well, I don't know. I've never tried. I had a shitty goatee for a minute in high school. So I'm growing an apocalypse beard. Partially because my wife said I couldn't.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah, I was like, well, here, do you feel it? See it? It's coming in. I probably smoked too much pot to have enough testosterone to grow a manly beard.
It's the mark of manliness, to be fair.
Yeah.
I had grown one not that long ago, and I think it was about 3 months, and I managed to style it into, and it was all looking good. It was longer at the chins, shorter on the sides, and then I just thought I've had enough and shaved it off, and it was the worst decision of my life. And I don't know if I can go through the growing stage again. I think I'm resigned back to stubble now. I don't know if I can go through that middle part. It's a tough slog.
It is, and now you're not supposed to touch your face. And I don't know about you, but if I've got facial hair, I'm probably gonna fidget with it.
Yeah.
And eventually, when we're tying people to the train tracks, we can twirl our mustaches.
Yeah.
We're gonna get the guzzling.
Yes, that you need to start thinking about your post-apocalyptic look now, because it'll come up too fast, and it'll be before you know it, and you'll just be out in your normal clothes, and then all the the leather assless chaps bondage gang will just laugh at you, and you'll be like, oh man, So you need to be ready for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, or you're gonna look like. Yeah, you're going to be running around trying to be a badass with juicy on your ass cheeks. or something like that. Or you'll look like Daniel Radcliffe in Guns Akimbo, where you're just in a robe.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, he's one of the characters you would stay away from in a wasteland, I believe.
True. Yeah, I've got the Zombie Survival Guide. and Abby Hoffman's book on how to be a revolutionary in the 60s. Those are the only physical survival books that I have in my house. But
I've got two. I've got Bear Grylls' How to Stay Alive, which is very useful. Considering if you want to stay alive, it's got everything you need in there. And the other one is How to Stay Alive in the Woods. And I found out after I owned this book that it's actually the same book that Heather has in the Blair Witch Project. Now, obviously, it didn't work out well for her, but it's still a pretty cool read.
But maybe being out in the woods. See, there's another thing that they're talking about with the virus here in the States is that it's largely it's right now for either lack of testing or more exposure. The people, it's more in the cities than it is out of the cities.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know.
That's so you'd want to get out of the woods, and it's self-isolating. I mean, there's nothing more self-isolatory than being yourself in the woods,
Yeah, there's still some woods. There's still some woods out and about there. It's not such a wasteland as I mean, they don't even really say. They just say that it's the future.
The near future they call it, don't they? But the thing is, if you go from Mad Max 1, where he's still somewhat of a cop, I believe. You do get that. You get that flashback at the start, and it shows them how the motorbike gang kills his girlfriend. I don't know if it's his wife. I'll assume it's his wife and child, and that's pretty brutal.
Yeah, they run them down in the road.
Yeah. But so then, how do you get from? I guess his outfit is still kind of normalish. He's a leather jacket, maybe some leather trousers. That's kind of normalish. You get away with that. How did the rest of that gang? How does the rest of that gang decide? I'm just going to. Do you know what I mean? I'm just going like Humongous has just got a pair of leather pants on and a hockey mask. That's all he's wearing. How did he come out of his house wearing that outfit, and the rest of them all just went, "Yep, that's our leader. That's who I'm going to follow."
I dare you to laugh at me. I'm gonna throw Burning Man in on this hill with my captured friends of yours on the Judas crucifix or whatever those things are called, and I'm gonna rant into the megaphone, and you will give me your gasoline.
That's literally how it is. It's the confidence, I think. It's the confidence that Lord Humongous exudes. Even calling himself Lord Humongous is pretty ballsy, in itself. So, yeah, I think that's what it is. It's confidence. People love confidence, and if you've got the confidence, you can do anything.
Yeah, he's got his hype man. Calls him his Ed McMahon or some Scottish show that I've never seen. He did have the gun and the most bullets. Okay, well, I've got one gun and 8 bullets, so I am in charge of everything. That wouldn't fly. Here, we've got the feral baboon boy that we are to understand is the eloquent narrator at the beginning and end of the movie.
I have so many issues with that completely. That boy is running around. He's supposed to be, I don't know how old he is, maybe 7 years old, would you say? Is that about right? Or maybe a bit younger, between 5 and 7 years old. He cannot string a sentence together. He's screaming like a baboon, like a feral animal, doing backflips, and nobody's taking responsibility for that kid whatsoever. And then he's just like, I became the leader of the gang. I'm like, no, absolutely no way, because everybody else is dead because you fucking ate them all. That's why you're the leader. There's no way in hell you grew up to be a fucking sophisticated gentleman. I'm not believing it.
The baboon boomerang boy cut everybody's fingers off and ate them.
It's just not. That's the most unbelievable thing about the whole fucking movie.
Everything else, I mean, the car chase, and talking about believable, all those practical stunts. How many stuntmen do you think they just buried in the desert?
Yeah, quite a few, I think. That's one thing that's great about those old kind of movies. Like, there's no health and safety. There's just absolutely no consideration for their safety whatsoever, and I love it. There's, they're driving, flying across the desert, and there's one guy just jumping from car to car, and that's exactly what he's doing. There's no nothing about it. He's just jumping from car to car. No ropes, no working safety line. Just don't fall off.
That fucking guy that wrecked his motorcycle and somersaulted 60 feet. That's real.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah.
fake.
That's brilliant as well. Just like the danger these guys are putting themselves in, and probably, I don't know what a stuntman gets paid, but I don't suppose it would be crazy high.
Not in the first one, at least. A lot of the stunt people were paid in beer. They got like motorcycle enthusiasts.
Before they done the stunts.
Yeah, this will loosen you up. So I think it's the first one where the stuntman gets hit in the back of the head with his own motorcycle in one of the shots.
Right.
Yeah, real thing.
It's and it's those days of proper stunts are they're disappearing. I think with the CGI getting a lot better. Even it's still garbage, but it's getting better. That so much is blue screened or green screened that you're losing the old fashioned stuntman.
Oh shit! What's that? New Zealand lady.
Oh yeah, from the Death Proof.
Yeah.
Zoe Bell.
Zoe Bell.
That was quite a badass movie, to be fair. That had some pretty good stunts in it.
I like the documentary about her. I forget what that was called.
Do you know, I was aware of that, but I haven't seen it. Do you recommend it?
I would totally recommend it. But yeah, it's some badass Australian stunt people. I mean, half of this movie is a chase. And it's 1/10 eating dog food and just a couple seconds of, even in the post-apocalypse there is a class structure. It's like we are the people with white clothes.
I was totally going to mention that. Yeah, so a lot of them have even got like kind of blonde hair as well. It's just it's like old-fashioned Star Trek, isn't it? Like when you, like the original series, when you had the bad guys were all wearing black and the good guys were all black, even down to the hair color. It's classic storytelling. But it kind of leads you up the path of then where does Max fit in, because he's all in black, so he technically, going by color, should be on the evil side, and that's why I don't think he ever does anything to actually help people. I think he does it for himself. Yeah,
he's the reluctant hero. He didn't rescue those people that were getting killed because it was none of his business, and then he went up and he's like, I'm just gonna take your gas. And he was nice enough to use the bolt cutters and cut the guy free. And then that was going to be it. And then it was, well, I can get you something. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I'll drag your ass back to this place and get me some gas.
Yeah, it was always for a reward. That was his motive, is always for what can he get from it.
Yeah. And then he's even going to leave.
Yeah, I think the only probably semblance of kind of morality or humanity from Max is the almost the kind of very small relationship he has with the feral kid, giving him the music box.
Yeah, oh yeah. What was that play? Happy Birthday?
Pop Goes the Weasel, I think it was.
Pop Goes. There we go.
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
Yeah, it is very strange, and also it's good in terms of some things have done different. Maybe they've just been done differently since then. But the scene during the huge chase where they've got two of the hostages tied to the front of the humongous car with bags on their head, it's actually very brutal. This movie, one of my notes, if I could read them, it definitely said how I thought maybe time had changed the age of this movie. I thought, because over here it's an 18. I don't know what that is in American. Is it what's above?
Let's see. Probably NC-7, because R-rated movies are, you have to have an adult with you if you're under 17. NC-17 is you have to be at least 17 years old to watch it. Right.
Well, we've got 15. So let's put that at NC-17, and then an R would be at 18.
Okay.
So over here, my release is an R rating, I'd say, for Mad Max. Is that what's?
Yeah. Unless my Blu-ray's unrated, because they're allowed to release unrated stuff all the time now. But
so it's an R-rated movie, and I thought, well, if they'd re-release it now, it'd maybe be down to like an NC-17 or like a 15 over here. But really, when you look at some of the scenes, some of the brutality in it, like at the beginning, those first two people who watch is getting killed, that woman is stripped naked and then raped and then killed. It's it's a devastating, 5-10 minutes for those two characters. It's horrible.
And I swear, in some of the crashes, you see that they put the steps to have like smashed head body parts.
Yeah, well, that's what I was beginning that story there with the two hostages at the front. When Max slams on the brakes of the truck to try and throw the Mohawk guy off the front of the truck, it makes Humongous drive into the back of the truck, which has got the two hostages on it, and I'm sure they kind of pop. There's kind of blood pops out from their head masks, and you only see it for like 2 seconds, and they never address it. The two hostages have clearly just been killed, and it's only a split second, and it's just like, well, that's them done. Nobody cares anymore. We're just continuing with the chase, and it's that kind of brutality that's like, this should be an R rating.
There's a high body count in that last 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, but then I also think that they fast track the deaths of the Mohawk and Lord Humongous, because the Mohawk flies off the front of the truck and you think that's him gone, he's dead. That was uneventful. But then you have the whole fanning about with they getting the feral kid to get the shotgun shell, which that scene actually annoyed me, because this wee cunt's jumping about, doing backflips, throwing, slicing boomerangs and going through tunnels underneath the place, jumping on the back of that truck, and then he's like, reach out the front and grabbing that shell, and he's shiting himself. Like, no, come on. But and then it's obviously Mohawk's still alive, and I'm sure it's something very quick that just ends both of them together, or does he just crash the truck? I think he just crashes the truck, doesn't he?
Yeah, he smashes him and pulls the kid back. Yeah. And then the truck crashes, and it was all a ruse.
It was a ruse, because there was nothing in it. It was sand. It was in it.
Yeah.
Right, because I was watching it. I was thinking there was nothing in it all along. But so that was it was a dummy truck, and the rest of the guys took the actual gas away. Is that what happened?
Yeah. The people that ended up being the society ruled by the baboon boomerang boy. There's a really quick shot of one of the cars in the caravan going away, and it's fuel tanks in the back.
Right. I thought, when I seen that happen, I thought a couple of things flashed through my thought process when I seen the sand, and I thought either that's been some kind of mistake, or they're trying to say that when it crashed, the sand all came in it, or they lied to him and there was no gas all along. But then I completely missed. I'm sure it even explains to you, but I've missed it that it was a ruse to like a decoy. So I'm assuming Max knew there was nothing in the truck.
I would assume, because he didn't look surprised, although he is in the I don't give a fuck mode of Max. You know, he's like a hurt revenge guy in the first one. Here he's DGAF Max. I might edit that out. That sounded corny as shit. But yeah, he didn't seem surprised at all.
Yeah, it was also, you crash the truck, you see that there's no gas in it. I guess maybe it's because Humongous is dead, but the rest of the gang just up and leave. The ones that are left are just like, right, that'll be that then. I'm going.
Yeah, that was the last time we saw him, I think, the voiceover even says.
It's also, it just shows that the whole good guy gang are just an absolute bunch of pussies, because what they've had is their leader gets killed in the kind of weird chitty chitty bang bang car that he's driving in, and then the helicopter guy comes back. He's only been there. That guy's only been there for what? If we're assuming this is somewhat real time, he's only been with them for a day, let's say. Yeah. But 24 hours, even if it's split up into wee bits. And during that 24 hours, he tried to kidnap one of the girls and take her away in his wee helicopter and leave. But then somehow, an hour later after the chase, he's now the king of the pussies.
And that's why Max didn't want to hang out with them anymore.
Do you know what? I think Max made the right decision.
He's got to move on to get a new dog. That was the thing that pissed me off the most this last time watching, was when they killed his fucking dog.
It's always the worst part. Maybe you can kill as many humans as you want, but kill the dog, man.
Like, that's uncalled for, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, his dog was awesome. Here's to Max's dog, which I don't know if they ever they probably had a name, but it was usually just voice clicks like Brad Pitt and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I've still not seen that yet.
Oh, no?
Yeah.
Well, I hope that
it's on the list.
I hope that doesn't ruin anything that he communicates with a dog with voice clicks. But it's not a big plot point. But yeah, I mean, I think we actually talked. The record for longest of not talking at all about a movie is still a collaboration with Mr. McLeish.
Oh, I can imagine.
I think we were supposed to talk. We were supposed to talk about Starship Troopers.
Such a good movie.
We talked for an hour and a half before we got into talking about the movie, so I put out 2 episodes. But, I mean, so Mad Max 2 or The Road Warrior in America, we don't really rate movies over here, but I think we both said that we would recommend it. Is your favorite in the series?
This is, definitely my favourite in the series. However, I did jump on to Duncan's show on the podcast Under the Stairs to discuss the Fury Road. And I found new love for that one as well. There was a lot more to appreciate after on a second and third watch that I didn't get the first time around. However, The Road Warrior is still my favourite for sure.
Oh, yeah, right. I had the first one in that series.
Yeah.
On that roulette. Which, yeah. I meant to rewatch this one then, but I hadn't. So it had been a minute since I had watched it, and I've got the Blu-ray. It was really nice taking the cellophane off from that. I don't want to keep you too long, but have we neglected to talk about something other than before you go and before we cut this off, you're going to have to talk about your show. But for Mad Max 2, did we forget to say something that you'd kick yourself in a half hour if you had forgotten to say it?
I don't think so, but because I don't have my notes in front of me, I can't be sure. I always kick myself after doing things and always forget everything. So no, I think we discussed it through. I think one of my main points is that Mad Max, trying to make Fury Road, Mad Max is Mel Gibson. It's, he's done loads of iconic characters over the years, from Lethal Weapon to Braveheart to even his turn in Daddy's Home. Is that what it's called? The Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell movie.
I think that is what it's called.
Yeah, the sequel to that, it was just that he's a cracking character. I think he's hilarious, and he's just like a big dickhead. And he's got his troubles off screen. That's not for me to comment on. I don't think he's touched any kids, so I can still watch his movies. So that's pretty good. Actually, do you know what? I don't even know what he did do. What did he do? He was drink driving.
He was drunk and yelling at a cop about the Jews and stuff.
Fuck. All right, okay. But his movies are good. He really plays half dead really, really well. Next time you watch Mel Gibson and see if he's been strangled or choked, he plays it really, really well. It's one of his strongest acting points, I think.
Yeah, when he plays Riggs, is that the second movie where they throw him in the water in a straitjacket, but luckily they've already established that he can dislocate his shoulder to get out of straitjackets?
Yeah. Yeah, and then did you know he's trying to catch a breath. He's got that acting down to a T. That's
what got him that Braveheart Oscar, right?
Yeah, that's it. That half strangled thing. It's funny, the Braveheart thing. It's so historically inaccurate, but man, do we love it?
That's like another Mel Gibson movie here called The Patriot, about the Revolutionary War.
Is that inaccurate as well? I watched that not too long ago for the first time, and I was like, well, this is quite a good movie. So that's not...
From what I understand, there's a lot of creativity with... I don't think he's based... He's not supposed to be a real person, but I think they got timelines of shit wrong. Yeah.
So that's what they did in Braveheart as well, if I'm correct. I believe... one of the main things, because all the main characters, I believe, are William Wallace, Robert the Bruce, and the English kings, the French queen or the French princess. No, sorry, the I think the person, his wife Mirren, I believe, was a real person as well. One of the criticisms, I believe, was she was a lot younger than he was. However, no, it was years ago, people used to marry 12-year-olds, didn't they? So that probably makes sense.
Yeah, that was usually the way it went. 12, 13.
The biggest thing, and if they had done it in the movie, it would not have been as well received for Scottish people, is that at the time, the Bannockburn fights, the independence stuff in 1314, the Scottish armies were not wearing kilts at that point. Tartan wasn't a big deal in the 1300s. We would have been wearing very similar to the English were wearing, the chainmail, the heavy leather padded outfits to try and stop ourselves getting stabbed as best as possible. And it would have been a cheap version because we didn't have the kind of king's money behind us, so it wouldn't have looked as cool. I don't even know if bagpipes were invented at that point. That kind of Scottish heritage didn't come around to the 1700s, and I think if you look into it, it's not as glamorous as it sounds because it comes off all the rich kind of English ruling sides, like the Little London over in Edinburgh, which is terrible of me to say Edinburgh because I love Edinburgh. I was born there. It's great. But there's a lot of Braveheart's not historically accurate. However, the movie is brilliant. I was going to say that's a tangent there, certainly, for sure.
I allow every Scotsman who comes on the show to say their piece about Braveheart. It's becoming a thing. I think now you, Duncan, and I believe Liam have all said something about Braveheart on a show.
Well, hopefully they too love it. I'll be having words.
Oh no!
Stone throwing competitions.
Duncan's, you know how Duncan's a big fan of history. He's got a lot of issues with that movie.
Nah, that boy's got a lot of issues in general.
But yeah, I mean, this was a ton of fun, and we could totally. I don't know if we want to say goodbye, or if we want to take a little bit of a break, refill our beverages, and talk a little bit more about shit that's going on. But I feel like our talk about Mad Max has kind of hit the end. Do you want to say goodbye, or do you want to say see you in a couple seconds?
Let's see what time we're on. I could probably go for another. Are we well? Maybe another 15-20 minutes or so. That's
okay. Yeah. Let's take a really quick break and then just sort of chat it out, and you'll plug your cool shit, and we will go on.
Sounds good.
Just to say hi, my name is. You're listening to Scott and Liam versus Evil.
Say that again.
It's just introduce yourself. You're listening to Scott and Liam versus
Scott
Evil.
and William versus Evil.
Liam, Scott and William.
Scott and William.
Liam, like Liam.
Am I not saying that? William.
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 No, it's like just like no Liam. Just
Liam.
Yeah.
Liam. Sorry, I am jet lagged. These lights are not helping. Scott and Liam versus Evil.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That's cool.
I thought you were spelling out the end of William. That's fine. Okay, I got it now. Okay, ready?
Yes.
Hello, this is Amanda Fuller, and you are listening to Scott and Liam versus Evil.
Well, you aren't listening yet, but you should be.
We are Scott and Liam versus Evil out of Glasgow, Scotland. In each episode, we take you on a drunken trip through the best, the worst, and the in-between picks from horror cinema. Well, at least we try to.
You can find us online at scottandliamversusevil.com. So join us as we bare our souls everywhere good podcasts are available. Or the pub.
I thought I had unmuted everything, and I was like, okay, I'm back. And then I sat there for about 30 more seconds. I was like, I think maybe I don't have something turned the right way. But, okay. And through the magic of science, we're back in less time than that really took. But, so before we just get totally wrapped up, like we said, you are Scott of Scott and Liam versus Evil. So glad to finally have you on the show and have a chat. And for the weird Venn diagram of people that know about this show but don't know about yours, what is Scott?
Well,
and Liam versus Evil?
yeah. So Scott and Liam versus Evil is a horror movie podcast. Now I know what you're thinking. There's not enough horror movie podcasts out there. This is a strange thing that we've done talking about horror movies. You know, it's crazy, but you know it is. So we talk about, me and Liam. We talk about any horror movies. We pick one each. Liam will tend to pick something old-fashioned, black and white, shite. I'll tend to pick something cool and hip and hilariously brilliant. And then we just kind of discuss it, we rate them, and we just generally just chat nonsense. That's the biggest thing, is just chat nonsense. We want to make it sound like you're just listening to your friends having chatting in the pub. We don't call ourselves reviewers. We don't pretend to have any sophisticated knowledge on the history of horror cinema or in anything in general. We tend to talk nonsense. We tend to make up facts. We tend to get a lot of things wrong as well. But we just have a good laugh recording our episodes, and people who do listen to it seem to agree and enjoy it with us. And it's like I say, it's Scott and Liam versus Evil. And if you are listening to this right now and are interested in checking it out, it's just search that on anything that you get your podcasts on, and you should find us.
And on Instagram too.
Yeah. We've got on Instagram. We put up the posters. Liam creates all the posters. He's I think he's actually, his job is kind of graphic design. So basically, it's just like a busman's holiday. You know, I was going to give him credit there, but you know, it's that's what he gets paid for. No, that's it. No, Liam makes these fantastic posters up each week for our shows, and he's changed the theme of them over the years, and he knocks out the park every time. It just looks the business. So we're on there, and I think that's just straight up Scott and Liam versus Evil. We're also on Twitter, Scott and Liam versus, and we've got a Facebook group, which is a lot of fun, a lot of interaction in there. So if you're interested, come and have a listen, come and have a join. We're good fun.
Yeah, totally fun listen. Yeah.
The only thing to be aware, especially if you're listening from the other side of the pond, on your side of the pond, Daeron, that we're heavily Scottish, and we talk very fast. I talk very, very fast. I've tried to talk as slow as possible and as eloquent as possible today, but when it's me and Liam talking together, I can sometimes get carried away and speak way, way too fast. So it might be difficult to understand. However, if you can understand Scottish accent and fast speakers, then yeah, that's the podcast for you.
I barely notice. Every once in a while, I'll have a bit of a delay trying to match up the slang. But I've always been a fan of dialects and regional dialects and accents and things. I can't really do any for shit, but I've been told that I have a strange accent, so it's all in the ears.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And that's the thing. If you want to listen and you want to hear it, you'll understand what people are saying. I always think that when and not just talking about podcasts here, but when people like say, "Oh, I can't understand your accent," I think it's laziness, unless obviously it's an out and out ridiculously thick accent. But most of the time, it's just someone either being rude or being lazy. If they say, "I can't understand," they just don't want to understand.
Not paying attention. Out of curiosity, since this is your first time and hopefully not the last on the show, I usually ask everybody from another country, what part of America do I sound like to you?
The middle.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's. I'm on the Eastern time zone, but the Midwest is. Ohio is, I believe, no one would argue Ohio is not part of the Midwest, with Indiana and Illinois and those there.
I think your accent to me sounds very well spoken, very enunciated. I can understand everything you're saying. You don't have a kind of a thick accent from any particular place. It sounds like when my experience hearing perhaps an American advert or something that I just consider to be just American, it's a good accent. It's the accent that everybody understands. That's what I think. It's not. Yeah.
It's all about communication, so being able to be understood.
That's it.
Well, yeah, I was just curious. I like when I do travel around the States, finding out who says pop and who says soda, and what twangs people. I hear people say,
and then you realise that you should be saying neither because it's juice.
Yeah,
that's what that's just to be clear. I know what pop and soda is. It's fizzy juice, and that's it. It's fizzy juice. Yeah, that's it. That's what you drink. A can of fizzy juice.
I am in a soundproofed room in my car park, and the bin lorry came by yesterday and took my garbage. It's been a while since.
Rubbish.
The rubbish.
Yeah,
bin.
I took my rubbish.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did a lot of folklore and sociology when I was a journalism major. Before I got told journalism is dying, as you know it, and you need to switch to something else.
And to make a long story short, too late!
But anyway, Liam did the poster or the artwork for the Repo Man.
Yeah, that's right. That was the episode he was on, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The poster was cool. Liam, he is a talented boy.
You should look up the American Criterion picture for that. That is probably my favorite artwork for that movie. What are your plans for the foreseeable future? What's it looking like?
Well, for me, I've got a day off tomorrow. I don't know what it'll entail. We're pretty much we're not quite on lockdown yet, but I think it's coming soon. And then after that, I'm working for the next 3 days. I do work in the NHS in the healthcare system over here. So my work will not shut. I'll have to go to work every day, put myself in danger of catching COVID-19 and dying. But it's the risk. It's the risk you take for this vocation, you know.
Make each one a scavenging trip and come back with a piece of canned food or tinned food.
Yeah, tins. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
And you've got real sugar. You've got real sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
High fructose corn syrup is, you actually have to look for real sugar in things that have sugar here in the States, because food items, especially the cheaper they get, there's this chemically creative sugar substitute called high fructose corn syrup made out of corn, and it is so much worse for you than just sugar. But yeah, that's a whole other episode.
Well, I look forward to that episode because that is something that I do love about the States, and it is the food. And so I've not been there since I was 15, so fuck, that's going on nearly 20 years, I think now. And so I cannot wait to get the chance to come back and just eat everything.
Are you going to go to the South for the barbecue or the?
Hopefully they won't chase me out, but yeah, I'm definitely going to go and try and get some barbecue, some proper barbecue.
Go to Austin. Doesn't Elijah Wood have a barbecue restaurant in Austin, Texas?
Does he?
I think so.
I am 100% going there.
I'm pretty sure he does, but I'm pretty sure he's got a barbecue restaurant in Austin, Texas.
I will definitely be going there.
Like that or a record shop or both. You can always come here and stay at a Brewdog, speaking of Scotland.
That's right. The hotel, is that right, isn't it? It's near you.
The first brewery and hotel in the States is right here in Columbus. It's technically outside the city. Just everybody's got a fucking brewery. There's, I could probably seriously throw a rock or hit a rock with a tennis racket and hit 3 or 4 of them from my house. But yeah, the Brewdog Hotel, the Doghouse. Although I think they're shutting down, but they're offering beer delivery, like next day beer delivery here. I don't know if they're doing that over there, but
I'll need to check that out. Yeah.
If you were gonna take a nugget of wisdom from Mad Max 2 in these trying times, what would it be? What's the lesson learned from Mad Max 2, if there is one?
That you have to stay away from groups of people and never become attached, and only do things that can get you something in return.
There we go.
Yeah, be a dick, basically.
Be a dick.
Be a dick, but don't be an asshole.
Because assholes get fucked by dicks.
It's the most sensible bit of cinema ever created. It's the best monologue that makes so much sense that explains the whole world.
And you might hear that in just a couple seconds. But thank you, dude. It was a pleasure talking to you.
No, it's been a pleasure being on the show. Thank you for having me.
I've been looking forward to it, and we'll figure out what to do next time. Yep, everybody, put the duct tape on your windows. Take it off every couple days. Air that shit out. And here's to social distancing. And don't forget to duck and cover.
He did what we all must learn to do. You and you and you and you. Duck and cover.
If you enjoyed this show, then make sure you check out the other great shows on the Legion Podcast Network, like Cinema Psyops, Cinema Beef, Devour the Podcast, Duncan and Bo Come Correct, Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast, Friday the 13th, Get Slayed, The Helming Power Hour, Hello, This is the Doom Show, Hero Hero Go Show, Kill the Cast, Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space, Jerry Hates Action, Legion After Dark, Mental Health, Obsessive Cinema, Discourse, Pick Six Movies, the podcast by The Cemetery, the podcast on Haunted Hill, the Psychosemantic Podcast, Rick Radio, House of Wax, Dude Looks Like the 80s, Rabbit and Red Radio, the Shadecast, Short Bus Cinema, 2 Drink Minimum Commentaries, the VD Clinic, Who Will Survive Horror Podcast, and Witch vs. the Doomsday Clock. With such a wide spread of shows, there is guaranteed to be a niche for you to fall in love with. Horror, politics, movies, books, sex, music, commentaries, health, video games, kaiju, action, news, comedy, and opinions that would most likely get you killed in some parts of the world. We are proud to bring you some of the best podcasting in the world. Check us out at www.legionpodcast.com, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and any other dark corner of the internet where podcasts can be found.